Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, this is Generational Wealth, Matt Capital, coming to you once again. The cavalry is not coming, ladies and gentlemen. The creek has rose, the levee has given way. It's up to us to save us. Yes, I've been away for the past couple of weeks. If you follow me on Facebook, I've been in Puerto Rico looking for properties. We've been buying properties. We're doing a lot of great things here at MA&D Capital Investment Group. We also had an extravaganza, homeownership extravaganza last Saturday. Great turnout. We really enjoyed the turnout that we had. We helping people get into the homes. We're setting a commission here at Mac Capital Investment Group. We want to help 100 people get into homes before December the 31st. So that kind of lines up. We're getting ready to launch a 4-week course, and it's going to be talking about home ownership and generational wealth. And so, one of the things that we're going to talk about is renting versus buying. Okay. So, a lot of people are saying that I can just rent my house and I can just, there's no difference between renting and buying. So, what we're going to talk about tonight is what is the difference between renting a home, buying a home. What should you do? What choice should you make if you're going to have generational wealth? So, the argument is that, you know what, Mr. Jackson, I can rent my house and, I don't have to worry about the maintenance of it. And all of those things are good. I don't have to worry about, making the payments and to the mortgage company. I don't have to worry about a lot of things. I just want to get in my house, just want to live in it. And then some people that are buying houses, they're saying, hey, you're right. You want to keep on renting and keep paying me rent. So let's talk about it. So we want to create an environment here at Mac Capital to where we want to have educated people in every aspect in our community. It doesn't matter to us if you're buying a home or wanting to know about credit or starting a new business. We want to make sure that you understand exactly what you are doing to make sure that your family is taken care of in your community. So let's talk about it. Renting versus buying. That's going to be the first topic that we're going to talk about tonight, renting versus buying. As we all know, the interest rates, the Feds just raised the interest rates a couple of points. I think it was 0.50, reported by CNBC. The interest rates, in our view, is going to still go up, but there's no guarantees. I want to use that as a disclaimer. There's no guarantee. We don't know what the interest rates are going to be next week, but we see that they're traditionally going up as inflation starts to go higher. Gas prices are starting to increase even more. We're beginning to see the pay at the pump. You should start to see things going on at the at your grocery store. Food is a lot more expensive to purchase. Everything seems like it's going up. So as everything else is going up, so is your rent. So let's talk about what should you do when you're talking about renting compared to buying. So let's put out some pointers here. So when a person says, hey, I want to rent, that means that somebody else has a mortgage or they own the property free and clear, right? They own the property free and clear, or they have a mortgage. If they have a mortgage on that property, they are paying a percentage. They're paying 5%, 6%, 7%. Most of the time, if a person if it's not their primary residence, they're going to pay a little bit higher interest rate because it is an investment property. Okay, so they're going to pay a little bit higher interest rates. If you are in an investment business, you're going to pay a little bit higher interest rate because it's an investment property, because the banks consider it a risk, because it's not your number one living condition. It's an investment. So what does that mean? So when a person says rent versus buying, it's the same, or a person that's renting is more often. Now, I've heard some of the people say, well, I don't own any properties on my own. They're not telling the full truth. Okay, they do own properties in their name, but they're structured to where They might have put it in their business name, or they might have put it in an escrow, or they might put it in an estate. But they still own the property, and they're not renting from somebody else. They're actually renting from themselves. So that's a totally different caveat to say, "Hey, I don't have any property. I don't have any rent. I'm renting. I didn't buy no properties." That's not true. And I've heard some of the national celebrities say that, and they're really not being genuine or honest with our people. Because let me talk about it. When you're renting a property, one, you are not setting up generational wealth for your kids. So when you make that payment or that $1,000 payment to that landlord, guess what happens? You don't get any equity in that property. That once you give that $1,000, it's gone. It's vanished. It's it. What you're doing is generating wealth for the landlord. The landlord is saying, "Hey, I will let you stay in my property, right, for a certain amount of dollars." Just use $1,000 as an example for here. And you got to remember, the landlord is there to make a profit. He's not there to not make a profit. So if you're paying $1,000 a month, he might be actually paying the bank $800 a month. Okay, I'll say that again. If you're paying $1,000 a month, he's probably paying $800 a month because he has to show a profit because he wants to make money off of what he's doing, off of his investments, which is a good thing. But when we think that you are not going to he's not going to make a profit off of you're fooling yourself. So if a person is paying 7%, 8% on a property, you're going to be paying 10. So automatically out the gate, you're going to be at a disadvantage because he has to make money off of what you're doing. Okay. So if you sacrifice a little bit, you can get those savings that we're talking about. So let's talk about the renting piece. So if a landlord, he's going to pay a little bit higher interest rate because it's not his primary residence. He's going to have to put a little bit more skin in the game because the banks won't finance him at 100%. They only finance him at 75 if he has great credit, maybe 80%. So all of that, he's going to have to invest initially before he can rent you the property. So he owns the property now, and he wants to make a profit. If he's making, like I said, if he's paying the bank $800, he has to put down $10,000, $20,000 on a $100,000 home, $25,000 on a $100,000 home. That money that he put out, he's going to transfer that to you as far as making sure that he's making his money back. So as a renter, you're going to make $1,000. So there's all type of things, laws that have passed to where if you default on your rent, they can report it to your credit report, and then you will be banned from or blackballed or have to explain away why you defaulted on that rent. So other renters won't lend to you, won't allow you to rent from them. So when you are renting, you're at a complete disadvantage. You have no equity in the property. You are basically renting to make somebody else's rich. Okay, you're paying somebody else's mortgage and you're paying them a profit. Now, I've rented before in my life. I've rented before. I've owned a home before. That's what we do. We buy and sell properties. We help people become homeowners. So I'm not totally opposed to renting. Okay. But when you think that renting is the same thing as buying, you're not creating generational wealth for yourself. Okay. I want to be very clear. Everybody cannot own a home starting today. Okay. Sometimes you got to make some sacrifices in order for you to be able to own a home. So when you're talking about renting, you want to make sure that the landlord is current on the mortgage. Okay. You don't want to be renting from somebody and then you get an eviction notice on your home. Okay. But because the landlord actually is owning the property, he can do what he wants to do with the property. Okay. So when you're renting, you're not creating wealth for yourself, you're creating wealth for somebody else, and also you're paying his interest. Okay. I'll say that again. You're also paying his interest. So if he has a 9% interest, he's not going to rent to you for 8%. He's going to rent from you probably 10, 11, 12, maybe 15%. So that is how he or she makes their money in the line of work that they're in. So it's important that our community understand what they say when they're saying renting is the same thing as buying. No, it's not. When you owning your home, let's talk about buying and owning a home. When you own your home, one, you build equity day one. You're building equity in what you're owning. Now, it's not complete. You don't own it completely, but every time you make a payment, some of the payment goes towards your principal, some of it goes towards your interest. If you buy $100,000 house, your payments is $1,000. Guess what happens? When you make that $1,000 payment, partial portion of it goes to your principal, portion of it goes to your interest. Over a period of time, you'll build up equity in your property. And guess what? Eventually, you will own it within 15, 20, or 30 years. There's a lot of different programs out there that can help you get into a home. But you have to be one, you have to be very disciplined. Two, you got to make sure that you know what your credit report is. Three, you got to get set up with a mortgage company that is solid, that will help you understand what you qualify for. Because the worst thing you can do is not like when you're renting, to where you could just have a set amount and you just pay your rent. You don't have to figure it out no more. But when you're buying a home, you have other things that affect what you're doing. The first thing, you got to pay your taxes. You know, the taxes come out annually. Look at what your taxes are in your area. Some people want to purchase a home in these great areas, and I love this home, but they don't take in consideration. If you're staying in a $500,000 house, your taxes might be $800 or $300 a month. You know, it might be that you got to take in consideration. The more that you have for your house, the more your taxes is going to be. Also, when you're paying taxes, that also goes to your school district. It also goes to your police department. It also goes to your fire department. A lot of times when you're in the middle of certain areas, they don't have high ownership. That's why we have the redlining with certain banks. They don't want to live in certain areas. Why? Because that is their way of keeping the wealth in certain areas. Okay. So when you're talking about an area that you have a lot of renters, they traditionally do not take care of the property as much, and the value goes down. So that's the risk that you take. But one of the things that will happen eventually, you have an end game. When you're buying your house, 15 years, you own it free and clear. That house, over 30 years, you own it free and clear. You have $100,000 now. Now you want to get away from taxes. Now you got to consult your accountant. So instead of you selling your property and paying taxes on it, you can actually refinance it. And your taxes is deferred until you sell your property. You don't have to pay taxes on it if you're refinancing it, right? You don't have to pay taxes until you sell the property, okay? So when you're buying, those are some of the benefits that they don't talk about when you're talking about owning your home. You can also get a line of credit against your home when you own it. If you're trying to start a business, if you want to send your kids to school, all of those things you can do when you are a homeowner, okay? When you are a renter, you don't have those luxuries. You have to depend on somebody else to make ends meet for you. So one of the things, also the other things, you got to have an opportunity. You got to have, if you are having a hard time seeing this, reach out to me, send me an inbox. You should be able to see me on Facebook. I'm sorry if you can't see it. On my end, I can see everything. So one of the things that you can do when you having home ownership is you can get lines of credit. Your taxes are going to the school systems, to the police departments, to the post office, all to the grocery, to the local businesses in their area. It's the whole economic system that you are part of when you're talking about home ownership. Okay. The value of most subdivisions, some subdivisions won't allow you to rent out in their house, in their subdivisions, because traditionally, when you have renters, a lot of renters in a subdivision, the value of the property goes down. So when you're renting a property, it's already stated that your wealth is not going to be there. Okay. So your interest is not for you to maintain or increase the value of that particular property. Most of the time, it's for you to just make your payments until you're where you're ready to go. So when you're talking about generational wealth, when you're talking about making sure that you have an opportunity for your kids and your kids' kids, you want to make sure that you are making a payment on a home that you own, and that you are creating that environment to where you can leave something for the next generation. When you're talking about home ownerships, I was talking to my accountant, and he said the number one thing that people have in their portfolio when they're talking about generational wealth or millionaire status is real estate. We must understand that real estate is the tool to create wealth. Now, I don't mean home ownership as far as, I got to own my home or I'm going to be broke. But what I mean by real estate is a tool to where we can create wealth for us and our generations to come. If you have real estate, and I was talking to an individual a couple of days ago, if you have real estate, when we're talking about oil, somebody has to own the land that oil is pumped out of. If you're talking about gold, somebody has to own the land that gold is mined out of. If you want to talk about a business, McDonald's has to have a building or land where they're going to make their hamburgers. So real estate and land goes hand in hand with generational wealth. If you want to do anything for your family, you need to leave real estate, home ownership, teaching them financial literacy to the next generation. There is no cavalry coming to help you get to where you're at if you don't actually put forth the effort to own some real estate. Renting is okay, but it is a temporary band-aid for you to get to where you want to be. If you're always renting, you never own anything, then you are creating wealth for somebody else. I'll say it again. If you're always renting and you never own anything, you're going to be creating wealth for somebody else. As I say, the cavalry is not coming, ladies and gentlemen. The creek is rose and the levee is given way. It's up to you to save you. You have to create that wealth by you participating in home ownership. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. Home ownership is the simplest, most easiest way to generate generational wealth. Let's talk about the next level. A lot of times we're talking about what's going on politically. We're talking about the economic system that we're living in. We're talking about, the high interest rates, the high gas prices. Interest rates had been the same for 18 years. I mean, since they haven't changed the interest rate since 2018. The interest rates had not changed until 2018, since 2018. When they started to change, when the economy goes into a recession, okay, when the economy goes into a recession, the interest rate starts to go up, okay? And that's one of the indicators. We must understand what is going on in our environment. Only because interest rates are going up. That is not an opportunity for you to lay on your hands and not get involved in home ownership. Now is the time. Now you're a little bit behind the eight ball. You're a little bit behind the ball. You're a little bit behind, but it's still the opportunity. Now is the time for you to become a homeowner. I'll say it again. You might be saying, Cepeda, the interest rates are not at 3% no more. I remember back in the day when I was at Household Finance, we were selling 11.99% interest rates. 11.99. So what are you saying? The interest rates are going to go up. You will adjust to it. The only thing that you cannot do is not get involved. You have to get involved. You have to find out, what is your credit score? What do I need to do to be in home ownership? It does not matter where you're starting from. Its matter is just that you get started. Renting is okay when you're starting, but it shouldn't take you 3 to 4 years to get into home ownership. Okay? Things, you might need to get your taxes done to get started. You might need to keep a job for 2 years to get ready to buy a house. You got to have the money to put down on it to buy a house. So one of the things that we teach here at MA&D Capital is that you got to create some habits. The number one reason why people do not become homeowners is because they don't create the proper habits. What are some of the habits that you can do? So I'm going to write some of these down that you need to do. What you need to do is create a habit of not overspending. Okay? That's the first thing that you have to do, is don't overspend. So I could care less what people say about budgeting, but it's as simple as this. Do not overspend. Okay? So what we teach here at MA&D Capital is that you want to save 80% of your income and live off of 20% of it. You want to save 80% and live off 20%. How do you do that? There's a lot of different ways on how you can do that. If you make $100, you need to be able to live off of 20. That means that you can't go out every night. You can't do certain things. You got to make biweekly payments. You got to know what your interest rates are on everything that you purchase. Okay? Now, you initially starting off, you might be living off of 90%, 98% of your income, and you only be able to save 10. I'll say that again. You might right now be living off of 99%, 90% of your income, and you might be able to save 10. Now, you know what? To be realistic, you might not be able to save anything because your expenses are more than how much money you bring in. Okay? You might be in that situation right now. So what you do when you're in that situation, you look at what your interest rates are on your credit cards. You look at what your interest rate are on your homes. You look at what your interest rate is on your car. You got to look at what your expenses are as far as your telephone bill, what you like to do for hobbies. All of those things have attachments to it. So what happens is you got to prioritize what is the most important thing. Is it important for me to go out to Chicago, or is it important for me to pay on that credit card so later I can get into a home? Is it okay for me to go out and buy the latest designer clothes, or is it more important for me to save, watch what I got, keep it up a little bit, and be able to get a cheaper rate on my car, the interest rate on my car? Okay? All of those things you got to take in consideration, because one of the things about renting is that you will never, ever get out of the rat race. You will always be robbing Peter to pay Paul. You'll never live in a comfortable area to where you feel good about your assets that you have, because renting is saying that, hey, I don't have any assets. The primary asset that I have as far as real estate, I don't have any. And its numbers show that people that are rent, they don't have wealth, and they traditionally do not make the income that they desire. Also, being a homeowner is the American dream. So why is it that most of the people in the African American community have not lived the American dream? And it's real simple. We have not disciplined ourselves, and we have not created habits, and we have not talked about financial literacy. Financial literacy is more than just a catchy term. I see people all the time talking about financial literacy, betting on yourself, and all of those catchy phrases. But when you truly are serious about jumping from a renting to home buying, there's one thing that you are going to do. You are going to start to discipline yourself to create habits because it's more painful for you to become staying a renter rather than becoming a homeowner. When you start to understand that renting is a part of the cycle of poverty that has plagued us from generation to generation, then we will begin to understand how important it is for us to start owning and empowering ourselves to buy real estate. Real estate has to be the key to getting us into a position to where we can be able to make decisions for ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, there have been wars that have been fought for real estate. I'll say it again. There has been wars that have been fought because of real estate. People that own land you have to protect it. When you start buying real estate and you start owning your land, then that puts you in a position of authority. When you own real estate, your family looks at you differently. When you own real estate, if you are a male, your wife looks at you like, look at what we've accomplished. When you own real estate, that gives you a certain amount of pride to know that you have left something for the next generation. One of the things that happens when you own real estate, you can bank and hang your hat on, hey, this is something that I own. My name is on this. When you begin to own real estate, you begin to say to yourself, this is a generational curse that has been broken. So what do we say with renting? Why are you so hard on renting, Mr. Cepeda? I'm not hard on renting because renting has its proper place. Because when you have investment properties, you got to have renters. But what we got to do is transition from renting to buying. There's nothing like ownership. I always say, bet on yourself. The cavalry is not coming. The creek has rose. The levee has given way. It's up to you to save you. So what do you need to do if you are a renter? You need to come to Mac Capital, and for our next seminar, it'll be June the 4th. It's on a Saturday from 11 to 1. You need to come in and become a part of our 700 Club. You need to keep a job for 2 years. That's one of the requirements, that you got to have 2 years of employment. And you need to stay within your means. Okay? So what is your means? How much do you qualify for? What is the lenders looking for? Because I'm scared. I don't know what to buy. I get frustrated with the process. And people are telling me that if I'm trying to apply for a home, there's going to be 5 to 6 people applying for the same home that I have. So let me give you some tools that you can use to where you can become a homeowner. Well, the first thing you got to do is know what your credit is. That's the first thing. Second thing you got to do is you got to have 2 years of employment. Okay? Once you have those 2 years of employment, then you got to have a 580 credit score minimum. A 580 credit score on up. And depending on your situation, we can go down to a 580. Okay? When you get to a 580, You want to make sure that if you file bankruptcy or if you've had some credit issues, you need to be able to explain to the mortgage broker or the banker why you've had those credit issues and explain them away. Then the third thing that will happen is you want to stay. I know the banks will allow you to have a debt to income, and that means how much income you have compared to how much debt that you have, monthly payments. So they'll take what you make monthly in income and divide it by how much debt that you have monthly payments, and it'll come up with a number. It'll come up with like 35%, 55%, 60%. Most banks will allow you to do up to 56%, well, 50%. But in order to be safe, you want to be at about 45%, 45, max 50. Okay. Now, sometimes you can go over case by case scenarios, but you want to stay in those sweet spots because you always want to have money set for a rainy day. Guess what happens when you're owning? You have the unknowns. So what happens is that once you get into your property, do not go out and buy the latest furniture and all those things. And I know you're excited, but refrain from overspending. Okay. So what happens? You go out, you buy your home, then after a year, you might see an adjustment in your monthly payment. And it's because of taxes or the value of your property has went up. So if the value of your property goes up, what happens is your taxes will go up along with it. And because your taxes you're in a higher property tax bracket, then your payment is going to be going up a little bit also. So you have to be prepared for that. So we're talking about not renting no more, but owning. So now you're paying taxes. So another thing that happens when you are a homeowner compared to when you're a renter is when you are a homeowner, then that means that you have access to lines of credit, equity, and those type of things. You can make more equity in your property if you make biweekly payments because everything is a compound interest. So if you pay on the 1st and the 15th, they can only charge you what you have paid interest on, what your principal is. So that's going to increase your ability to pay off the loan or generate more equity in your property at a shorter period of time. I'm not saying that you have to pay more. I just say you need to restructure the way that you pay it. You will never have these opportunities as a renter. You will never have these opportunities as a renter. The only thing that you will have as a renter is you got to make $1,000 payment and that's it. Once again, I was talking to an individual and we was having a discussion about renting versus owning. And they were saying to me, hey, renting, this is not the time to buy a house. This is not the time to buy a house. The interest rates are going up. This is not the time. Well, guess what? When is the time? Because if you are staying in a home, then you're paying somebody else's interest tacked on what they're charging you. So like I said at the very beginning of the session, the first thing that you're going to have to do is understand that the person who is your landlord is in the business to make money. And if they're in the business to make money, that means if they're paying a higher interest rate on an investment property, that payment is going to be transferred to you. I'll say it again. If they are paying 6% or 7% or 8%, just say for the sake of this class, is if they're paying 8% on their mortgage and there it is an investment property, you're probably going to be paying 12 to 13%. So let's be realistic. If they are paying $800 on their mortgage, they're probably going to charge you $12. So that $400 that you're talking about is a lot over this period of 15 years. I'll say it again. That is a lot when you're saying that, hey, I'm doing this over a 15-year period of time, that you are actually paying somebody else's mortgage. So let's calculate that for a second. If you have $400 that they're making every month, just say for the period for this class, they just say they made $300, and you multiply that by 12. Okay, that's per year. That's $3,600 a year that you're paying that person. And then if you just stay there 10 years, 10 years. So you just made them $36,000. You just paid them $36,000 in payments that you've paid them. Now, granted, they didn't make that payment. They didn't collect $36,000 and put it in their pocket. They had to make their payments. But you just was out of $36,000 with nothing to show for it. Compared to if you would have paid by buying the house, you would probably own the property almost free and clear within the next 5 years. That's if you would have a 15-year mortgage. You would be well on your way if you had a 30-year mortgage. Either way it go, there is no benefit when you're renting. I'll say it again. It does not matter. Buying is always better than renting, because you create generational wealth for you and your family and your kids' when you start to buy. You also will be able to, when you're renting, you can get an eviction. So within 30 days, you got to be out. Okay? When you're buying a house and you fall on hard times, you got to go through a foreclosure process. So that can take anywhere from 6 months to a year. Okay? It's not as immediate if you are a renter. Yes, it does messes up your credit, but you're able to recover if you are doing it like what I'm saying, if you are a homeowner. Okay? So the next question becomes, why is there so many people renting compared to buying? Well, the number one reason why people are more willing to rent is for the lack of knowledge or education. You have to understand that if you're paying $1,200 or $1,500, you can be owning that same property for cheaper. I'll say it again. If you're paying $1,500, $2,000 for a property, you can be owning that property for cheaper. This is the difference between renting versus buying, if at all possible. Now, you might say, hey, Cepeda, I want to be able to do a B&B or whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're in the home buying process. You must understand that the Calvary is not coming for us anymore. The creek has rose and the levee has given way. It's up to us to save us. Okay? Let me talk to you about the buying of the house now, because we've pretty much focused in on renting. We learned that renting, I will never own it. 2, it's never going to create generational wealth for me. 3, I'm going to be paying the interest rate on my landlord's mortgage because he's in the business for profit. He or she is in the business for profit, and that money is generated, passed down to me as a cost. So this is the cost of doing business. So the next step is, I want to become a homeowner. What should I do? Who should I link up with? And I don't have money to put down. There are opportunities for you to put down money on a property that you would like to purchase. But know this, sometimes when you're putting down money on a property, or you get a loan to put down money on a property, guess what happens? You're right. The interest rates are attached with the second mortgage is a lot higher than the one that's on the first mortgage. So that's a cost that you're going to experience because you want to put down the least amount of money as possible, if at all any. But we already know that we're living in a hot market, and the sellers are not paying the closing costs as much as they used to. So you got to understand that these are the things that's going on in our community, so that when opportunity presents itself, we can speak intelligently about the decision that we make to become homeowners. Now, you might not get the house that you want when you first start off. Start there. You might not get the house that you want when you first start off. But what you have to do is make sure that that is not the end goal for you. You must begin to increase your ability to make payments on homes and your assets so that you can maintain it. Okay? So when you're talking about home ownership, that is the key to getting generational wealth. Now, we're going to be talking about this topic, and I'm going to be bringing in some realtors and some bankers and some investors to where they can talk to us about home ownership. Next week, we're going to talk about interest rates compared to compound interest versus simple interest. Why is interest? Some people say, I was talking to an individual today, and they said, I don't want to pay no interest on nothing. Well, that's fine. But we're living in a day and time where we are consumer driven. That means that we use credit cards, everything to do purchases. We don't make anything ourselves anymore. We purchase things that are synthetically made, or we take a shortcut. But we must begin to understand that we must begin to pay the price to make sure that we are generating income for the next generation. So as we begin to talk about home ownership, inbox me. If you're looking to become a homeowner, or you question yourself about becoming a homeowner, now is the time to where you need to bet on yourself and get involved in home ownership. Now is the time. And I know that everybody is saying, no, don't do it. Don't do it. The interest rates are going up. The interest rate is more expensive, as you have learned today, for you to rent than it is for you not to buy a home. The only thing you have to do is get yourself prepared financially, and we can help with that. Okay? You must begin to understand that the cavalry is not coming. The creek has rose and the levee is giving way. It's up to you and me to save you and me. We have to get in the game. We can no longer sit around and say, hey, it's somebody else's fault because we are not where we want to be. It's your fault. You must begin to get lines of credit. You must work on your credit. You must start networking with people that's going in the same direction as you. I often think of the salmon. The salmon fish, when they're born, they say that they come back to their original place that they were born instinctively. Well, that's the same way we should be with our credit. Our credit needs to be a reflection of what we are, and we are going back to where we were instinctively. So we must begin to understand that credit is important. We must begin to understand that renting is okay, but you must become a purchaser of a home. You must get involved in the real estate. The cavalry is not coming, ladies and gentlemen. The creek has rose and the levee has given way. I see a whole lot of things coming down our pipeline in the future. Okay? But what we must begin to do is take advantage of opportunities that we have that can help us become homeowners instead of renters. Okay? I often say that you are in the position that you're in because of the decisions that you make. You must begin to understand that home ownership is the number one thing to you and your family. Security is in the home ownership. Now, when you don't have good home ownership and you're not renting and you're renting, what happens is that you begin to make decisions or create bad habits, not paying your bills on time, spending when you don't need to. But when you are a homeowner, traditionally you create budgets. You're incentivized to make sure that you keep what's yours. So This week, we talked about renting compared to buying. There's no comparison. If you are a renter, you're paying somebody else's mortgage that makes a profit. They got a mortgage at the bank. They have being charged interest. If they're being charged interest, you're going to be charged interest too. So why not pay interest on something that you own instead of something that somebody else is owning? If you are a renter, I'm not condemning you, but you need to put together a plan to where you can become a homeowner and celebrate with us how you came to do it. Okay? Buying is always better than renting. Okay? I'll say it again. Buying is always better than renting because you, for one, is in control of your own interest rate. The better your credit, the lower your rate. You're in control of that. You're the one who made the debt. So I haven't seen any questions yet. So, hopefully everybody was able to get in. And Marcus said that he couldn't get in, but I will send this out and put it back on the internet. Hopefully, everybody. Traditionally, we have a lot more people respond. If you are watching the show, inbox me, give me a hello. Share this with as many people as you can. We're going to be creating the 700 Club in about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, I know we've been talking about it. We've been excited about it, but we want to make sure that we are helping as many people as we can. We can close the loans for you. We can put together the mortgage for you. Thank you, Sherby. She said, I'm buying, but thinking about refinancing. Hey, now is the time. If you, depending on what type of interest rate you have, give us a call. We can put together an analysis for you and see if it makes sense for you. We have a great staff here to where we can look and see exactly what your needs are compared to what the interest rate is. So if you're paying a higher interest rate, we can help you out. If you're looking to get cash out of your property, your equity is high right now. People are buying houses and paying over the amount for the purchase price of the home. One of the things that I say that people are not really looking at is what the market will correct itself. Okay, we just got to give it time. People are buying these houses. Make sure that you have a quality realtor, a quality mortgage company to where you can get the maximum amount for your money. Sherby, this would be a great opportunity for you to buy today, refinance today. If you own a home, kudos to you. We want to have home ownership. Home ownership, home ownership, home ownership. That's what we're promoting. That's what we're telling everybody now. Even though the interest rates are going up, the economy is doing bad, but there's jobs. So as you know, as long as you got a job, you can make your payment. You got to have a roof over your head for you and your family. So as you begin to understand, you got to get involved, okay? If you got to pay rent, why not pay it for something that you're going to own? That's the number one thing I tell people. If you got to pay it, why not own it? Okay, it's only a little bit more responsibility that you have to where you're a homeowner. You can't call the maintenance guy, but you can call the guy for yourself. So make sure that you are actually finding out what the interest rate is on the market. And depending on when you purchase your home, you might be in a position where, you might even look at doing a second mortgage if you're looking to do some investing and building onto your property. Your property is the number one thing that you can keep. That's an investment tool that you can use. Like I said, June the 4th, we're going to have a homeowners extravaganza. We're going to start promoting it. We're going to start having the 700 Club. We want to make sure that we're supporting the businesses that have been on the show previously. And if you have been on the show previously, send me an inbox and say, hey, I've had some following. I've had some people utilize my services because I was on your show. We want to make sure that everybody that came onto the show had an opportunity for them to showcase what they do. Okay. It's important that we get out and support people that have businesses in our community. Okay. We have to celebrate the people who are working with us in our community that's providing a service. Home ownership. If we don't have any businesses in our community, then we can't pay those mortgages. So it's all a part of our economic system in the African American community. We must begin to save ourselves. We must begin to heal ourselves. It's up to us to save us. The Calvary is not coming. The creek is rose and the levee is giving way. It's up to us to save us. And it starts with us buying our own home instead of renting. So we want to make sure that we're helping people get into homes. If you are, once again, if you are a homeowner, okay, we can take an analysis of you and see if you can get a lower interest rate to maximize your savings. Okay, you have worked hard to get your credit to where it needs to be. We want to help you become a homeowner. Okay, or if you are not a homeowner, give us a call. It does not matter where you're at. Give us a call. We can actually help you work on your credit, get to the credit that you need, and we can close on your loan. Okay, so that you can become a homeowner. Now, it might not be the house that you want starting off, but as the time goes on and your credit gets better, then guess what? You will eventually be able to purchase the home of your dream. And so my dream might not be your dream, but it's important that you dream about becoming a homeowner. My dream might not be your dream. Your idea of a good home might not be my good idea of a good home. I want a room. I want a basement. I want a pool. I want a game room. You might say, hey, I want a big kitchen. Whatever it is, make sure that you know what your situation is. But once again, home ownership is the way to go. If you are renting, that's fine, but you should not want to be a renter for life. You should at least want to know how I can get into home ownership. So next week, we're going to talk about interest rates. What type of programs are out here and what is the tricks, gimmicks, and schemes of what's out here so that you can make sure that you avoid the potholes so that you will have success. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, once you start purchasing your home and you are in the process and you're working with a realtor, don't be discouraged because you didn't get the first house that you looked at and you fell in love with it. Keep going until you get your property, and keep going until somebody says yes and you're going to buy that property from them. So we want to make sure that you understand, hey, this is a place where you can come get pre-approved with Loan Simple. You can make sure, my name is Cepeda Jackson. I work with a company called Loan Simple as a national licensed mortgage broker. Mortgage loan officer. We can help you get into a home. We're based out of, my office is here in Indiana, but we got other branches that we can help with that. So whatever your needs are, give us a call. There's no reason why you should not be in the home ownership program that we're ready to start. Once again, the Calvary is not coming. The creek is rose, the levee is giving way. It's up to you to save you. June the 4th, we will be having the next extravaganza, home ownership. We want you to be a part of what we're doing. We want you to create generational wealth for you and your family. That's the number one goal of MA&D Capital, is to create wealth and generational wealth in our communities. So now you have it. You can't say, hey, I didn't know where to go. Now you have an opportunity to where we can help you. We're going to have bankers on here next week. We're going to have a realtor on here next week, and we're going to talk about the pricing and the interest rates and what we can do to lower the interest rates when we get ready to become homeowners, and what should we do when we're talking about buying a house and what programs that are out there. Once again, next week, we're going to be on here at Facebook Live. This is going to be a 4-part series. We're going to know next week, we're going to talk about the different type of programs out here and what you should look at individually for you. And how can you make an educated decision? We're going to be talking about FHA loans. We're going to be talking about VA loans. We're going to be talking about commercial loans. We're going to talk about terms where it says interest only, compound interest. We're going to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what you can do to better yourself and to make educated decisions about your financial situation. So this is just a tool. It's not an all in all. This is just a tool to where you can become a homeowner and make educated decisions about your credit. So make sure that you tune in next week. Don't be selfish. Send this with somebody else. Share it with somebody else. Say, hey, listen, next week you can do this from the privacy of your own home about how you can work on your own credit and make sure that you getting ready to qualify for a home. I'll say it again. Next week, you'll be able to learn what you need to do on your personal credit to where you can qualify for a home. The cavalry is not coming, ladies and gentlemen. The creek is rose and the levee is given way. It's up to us to save us. And I don't want you guys to think that I gave out everything. I left some of the things out because I want you to become a homeowner. I want you to come in and share with us. I want you to come in and be a part of our program. So if you are interested in becoming a homeowner, inbox me today or give me a call at 317-847-2810, 317-847-2810. That's my personal number, and you will be able to get into home ownership. You will be able to find out what you need to do to get into home ownership. There's nothing more exciting. There's nothing more make you more proud, make your family proud of you than when you become a homeowner and you can raise your kids in that environment. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, the cavalry is not coming. The creek is rose. The levee is giving way. It's up to you to save you. Once again, renting is okay, but home ownership is where it's at. You got to become a homeowner. You got to get in the game. You got to get in the game. You got to get in the game. The cavalry is not coming. The creek rose and the levee giving way. It's up to you to save you. I'll say it again. It's up to you to save you. And if anybody tell you any different, you tell them to come and see me. Tell them that Cepeda Jackson told them they didn't tell you the truth. The cavalry's not coming. The creek is rose. The levee is giving way. It's up to you to save you. Till next time, keep betting on yourself and never give up. Use somebody in your community today and let them know that Cepeda sent you. Till next time, bet on yourself.